All right, guys, your last circle lesson is on equations of circles. Front page, pretty self-explanatory, but second page might be a little above and beyond, but we'll make your quiz questions a little bit easier than what you're going to see on the second page. So let's get through the notes, and you guys can knock out that last assignment. All right, first up, what is the equation of a circle? The equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. All right, what do these pieces even mean? All right, HK is the center, and R is the radius. Still a little confusing, just hang on. All right, next section, guys, says writing circle equations, right? So here's what I'm going to give you. I'm giving you the center, and I'm giving you the radius. You will see this on the quiz for sure. All you have to do is plug in the pieces, right? 5 is your H, 3 is the K, and 2 is the R. Just plug in those pieces. Don't do any work. So if you plug them in, we'd have x minus 5 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 2 squared. If you wanted to do one thing, you could simplify the 2 squared, and that would be 4. Quiz, I'm not sure how it's going to give you the multiple choice answer, but just know if you wanted to simplify this equation, all you have to do is just square the 2 to get 4, okay? But I'm going to leave it like this to show you where the pieces are plugged in at. Number 2, okay, now remember, this is a -1, right? If you plug in -1, you have minus a -1. That turns into a +1. So it'd be x plus 1 squared plus y minus 7 squared equals 14 squared. Like I said, you could simplify that, but that's fine for me. Number 3, these will turn into pluses, right? Because they're both negatives. So it'd be x plus 2 squared plus y plus 11 squared equals 18 squared. Next one. Now, you could say x minus 0 squared, or you could just say x squared, right? Because x minus 0 is still x. So I am going to leave it as x squared. That's probably what you're going to see on the quiz. Plus y minus 9 squared equals 32 squared. Next one. That would turn into a plus. So x plus 4 squared plus, well, y minus 0 squared is just y squared, right? So I'm going to leave it as y squared equals. Now, I have to square this radius right here, right? When I square that radius, the square and the square root cancel out. That's 47. Number 6, x minus 15 squared plus y plus 6 squared. Remember, that turns into a plus. Now, when I square this guy, they cancel out 158. And I notice I made a mistake on 3 and 4, right? This is the diameter. Just change this to radius. All right. What you would have to do is you cut this in half and then square it, right? But just pretend I did it like 1 through 4 all the same. But accurately, I would have had to cut this in half and then square it. So this should have been 9 squared. This should have been 16 squared. How about equation given a graph? Well, you got to pull out 2 pieces. You got to find the center, and you got to find the radius, right? So center, where is that at? That's over 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, down 2. So center's at 3, -2. And your radius, just count boxes vertical or horizontal till you get to the edge of a circle, right? So if I just count up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My radius is 5. Now it's just like we did for numbers 1 through 6. Plug in the center, plug in the radius, and you are done. So the equation, x minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared, because that's a negative, equals 5 squared. Remember, you could simplify the 5 squared to be 25, but for me, this is okay. Numbers 8 and 9, a little trickier. I'm giving you the center, cool. And I'm giving you a point on the circle, not cool. The piece that you do not have, you need the radius, right? So if I kind of visualize this, right? Here's what I'm giving you. There's your center, and I'm giving you a point on the circle, right? The question is, I do not know the radius. However, you can find this by using the distance formula, right? So I'll show you one of these, and then I'll just give you the distance on the number 9. So distance from the center to a point on the circle will be the radius. So just remember, distance formula, I'll give it to you right here. Subtract the x's, square them. Add that with the subtraction of the y's and square that. All right? So distance, we'll have 9 minus 7 squared, 10 minus 4 squared. Let's see here. That gives me 2. 2 squared is 4. 6. 6 squared is 36. And that comes out to be square root 40. Now, leave your distance as square root 40, because remember, when we squared the radius up here of a square root, they just canceled out, right? So when I plug in the square root 40, it'll just come out to be the whole number itself. All right, so equation. Center is 9, 10, so x minus 9 squared plus y minus 10 squared. And remember, when I square this radius, the square and the square root cancel out. It becomes just 40. They cancel out, just like numbers 5 and 6 up top. All right, number 9. Center is 1, negative 5. Let's set up your distance one more time. So we would have 1 minus a negative 7 squared, so plus plus. Negative 5 minus 13 squared, plus plus. Keep simplifying. This gives me 8. 8 squared is 64. This also gives me 8. 8 squared is also 64. Leave it as square root 128. That is your radius. Equation. This is your center. X minus 1 squared plus y plus 5 squared. Remember, when I squared the square root, they cancel out. Just 128. Next page. 10, 11, same thing as 8, 9. Save some time. I'm going to give you the radius. If you want to find out the distance, just look at numbers 8 to 9 for if that was a quiz question. All right. Number 10, your radius comes out to be square root 257. So equation, x minus 2 squared plus y plus 6 squared equals 257. The square root and the square cancel out. 11, your radius comes out to be square root 65. Equation, x plus 2 squared. Y minus 0 is just y, right? So plus y squared equals 65. The square and square root cancel out. So just remember, check numbers 8 to 9 if you need to figure out how to find the distance for homework or for the quiz. Little trick here. I'm giving you the center, and then on 12 and 13, I give you circumference, and then on 14, I give you area. So a little bit trickier. So you got to recall some formulas from last week. Remember, circumference equals pi times diameter, and area is pi times radius squared. So, equation, I need to find the radius, right? Well, here's the problem. I need to find radius given the circumference. So, if I take circumference and I plug that in for c, then I can solve for diameter, which will give me the radius. So, step by step. Plug in circumference for c in the formula. So, 6 pi equals pi times diameter. Well, the pi's on both sides cancel out, right? Then I'm just left with 6 equals diameter. Well, if my diameter is 6, I know for radius, I just cut that in half. So radius would be 3. You've got the center, you've got the radius, plug into the equation. X plus 1 squared, y minus 4 squared equals 3 squared, which would be 9 if you wanted to simplify. That's it. Plug in circumference for c in the equation, solve for diameter. Just like 12, 17 pi equals pi times diameter. If you divide both sides by pi, well, they cancel out, right? So 17 is your diameter. Cut that in half to get radius, right? Half of 17 is 8.5. You have center, you have radius, plug it into the equation. X minus 9 squared plus y minus 12 squared is 8.5 squared. That comes out to be 72.25 if you simplify it, but for me, that's fine. All right, 14. I give you the area. So in the area formula, plug this in for the area, solve for r. 16 pi equals pi times radius squared. Divide by pi, they cancel out. You have 16 equals radius squared. Square root to get rid of the square. Radius is 4. There's your center. There's your radius. Plug it into the equation. Both negative numbers, so both pluses. X plus 8 squared. Y plus 11 squared equals 4 squared. 15, same thing. Plug in what the area is equal to for the A in the formula. So 361 pi equals pi times radius squared. Divide both sides by pi, they cancel. 361 equals radius squared. Square root. And that does not come out nice. Just leave it as square root 361. Because remember, when I plug it in, the square and the square root cancel out, right? Equation, x minus 2 squared plus y plus 2 squared. Now when I square the square root, they cancel out, so it's just 361. All right, so going backwards, you're given the equation of the circle. You got to pull out the center and then the radius or diameter, whatever it asks for, right? All right, we got this. Center, take the opposites, right? It was not -5, -1, right? When I plugged these in, they were positives. So your center is at 5, 1. And when you take out the radius, remember, you got to square root that because we had to square it to put it in. You square root it when you pull it out. So square root 64 is 8. If you were unsure, take your answer and plug it back in the equation. Does it make sense? Yep, x minus 5. Yep, x minus 1. Yep, and when I square 8, I get 64. So if you're unsure, plug it back in and see if it looks right. 17, center would be at -7, +2. Do the opposite. To get the radius, I got to square root that. Let's see here. Square root 24 comes out to be 18. But however, I want the diameter, right? Double radius to get diameter. If I double 18, that gives me 36. 18, center. There's nothing attached to the x, right? Well, there is, right? The only thing that could possibly attach to x would be a 0. So center would be at 0, -10. Square root that to get the radius. That comes out to be 6.5. But I want diameter, right? Double radius to get diameter. Double 6.5, 13. 19, center would be at 6, -11. Square root that to get radius. Let's see here. Square root 58 is about 7.6. Uh, 20, this one's called the challenge. We might as well knock it out. That's fine. All right, it says write the equation of a circle with diameter endpoints. Okay, here's the visual of it. I am giving you diameter endpoints, right? So I'm giving you these 2 points right here, basically. Well, 2 things we got to do. We got to figure out where is the center. Then we also got to figure out what is the radius. So I got to figure out center, and then I got to figure out the radius. Center first, right? If I give you 2 endpoints, to find the middle piece or the midpoint, you have to use midpoint formula, right? So recall back from semester 1, your midpoint formula. You add the x's, divide by 2. Add the y's, divide by 2, right? So to find center, use these 2 points, plug in the midpoint formula, then you will have the center. So if I do that, x's are negative 14, negative 10. Divide by 2. The y's are 1 and 9. Divide by 2. Negative 28 divided by 2. That gives me negative 12. 1 minus 10, 10 divided by 2. That gives me 5. So this is your center. Your center is at negative 12, 5. So that's that piece. So this is my center. And then just like on the other page, numbers 8 and 9, guys, you have to use a center point and one of the endpoints and use distance formula. Let's use this point right here. And I'll use a center right here. So distance. My x's are negative 12 and negative 10. So negative 12 minus the negative 10, so plus plus. The y's are 9 and 5. So 9 minus 5 squared. Negative 2 here, negative 2 squared is 4. That gives me 4. 4 squared is 16. That gives me square root of 20. Leave it at square root of 20 because when you plug it back in, they cancel out, right? So final answer. This is your center. This is your radius. Plug it into the equation. X plus 12 squared plus y minus 5 squared. Radius is square root of 20, right? So when I plug that in, the square and the square root cancel out. That is just 20. That is your challenge answer. That's it for equations of circles.